Welcome to Your Inspired Journey. I'm Carla Andrews, and I have the wonderful pleasure of being here with Kaye Doran. She is a phenomenal entrepreneur, a person who really helps women find their energy, of finding their power, of being the best of who they are, of what they want to, their desire to be. She is a leadership and a women's coach. She helps facilitate various workshops and programs. And she definitely, of course, is a person that you want to know. Welcome, Kay. I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear more about those golden nuggets that we've already kind of just started to talk about. But I know that you're going to share and you're just going to really drop these gems. So I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. I'm so excited to be here as well. And there's nothing more than I love than being able to share that might turn on the lights for somebody, or just, refuel them and give them an answer and keep them going forwards and give them hope. It's what I love to do and what I was born to do.
I love it. And you of course, you have to tell us your story. You have to tell us, how did you get to this past, a little bit about how do you get to this part where you're using this talent, these gifts, all of those skill sets now to be able to help women, and really for what, the last 30 years?
Yeah, there is a little bit of a journey where after 20 years, I sort of downscaled and did it on the side. And I went out and took my skill sets in my 40s out into the world, which was a whole new learning curve, because I went into management and building teams and sales and things, and I experienced a lot of bullying. But it's brought me back now to my business, up leveling it full time, a whole lot more of experience and the understanding of the importance of doing what we love and moving forwards and building a life and building abundance with the gifts that we've been given, if that makes sense. Because it was powerful to go out into the world and have those experiences, because it makes me more relatable. Imagine if I'd only been doing this for 30 years, and then the people that are doing the transition from a full-time job to their business, to become an entrepreneur, or they go, well, what do you know, Kay? Do you know what I mean? What do you know about the trials and tribulations that we go through? Well, I definitely know now. And I also know the damage that it does, where I got stuck into a point where I stayed in a particular job, being bullied by upper management, thinking I'd leave on my own terms, but needed those finances at that time. But I know what that betrayal does to ourselves and our health and our well-being and our spiritual essence as well. So it's so important to follow that calling that's in the heart. I say to people, we have, so a little bit about my journey. Sorry, I digressed. So,
No, you're good.
In my early 20s, when I was about 18, I had a car accident. I ended up in pain and unable to sort of move through that pain. So my mother, bless her, said, why don't you learn to meditate? And I started to have experiences, but all my life I've heard this internal voice of knowing that has always guided me. You can call it the divine, you can call it intuition, you can call it God. It doesn't matter what name you wrap it up in.
I call it the Holy Spirit.
Beautiful.
The Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Voice of truth.
But of course, too, our mind, as we're going through journey, we remember things, and depending how we're remembering it, if it could tell me, Carla, keep going, or it could be a voice of my mom, a voice of a mentor or a coach that reminds me to push through a difficult situation. So yes, I'm a person of faith, and I am led by the Spirit, but at the same time I understand what a person, if I'm hearing my mom saying, Carla, like during a difficult time, and I could hear her voice say, keep going, Carla, you can do this, and that helps you sometimes push you to that next level.
Absolutely. And some people will call it the superconscious mind, Carla. So what's happening is we have our subconscious, and our subconscious has been programmed to always say yes. Okay, so if you feel like you don't deserve, oh yes, okay, then we will bring those lessons to you. Okay, so you can respond until you can grow and understand and move past those limitations. The thing is, the unconscious mind, so all the stories and non-truths that we have built upon through our youth and through growing up, looking through sort of false lenses, is actually what's ruling and directing and fueling the subconscious. Now, that voice that you hear, especially in entrepreneurs, when it's like, write that book, start that business, do this, change something in your life, that voice that initially ignites you and you feel, yes, 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 yes. And then you start to go, no, 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 I don't know enough. I'm not good enough. I haven't got the time. All those, I call them excuses and avoidance tactics. They're just coming from that unconscious. And we need to understand the unconscious is full of the non-truths. But we're so used to listening to that voice and letting that fuel our subconscious, rather than that, the voice of Holy Spirit, the voice of knowing, the divine, whatever you want to call it, whatever tone it comes through in sounding like it's your mother, or do you know what but it's that voice that has that spark of energy, potential and possibility in you.
Positivity.
We need to make that one the driver of us moving forwards. But it's a little bit like being in the gym. When you first start, it seems really difficult and you're not used to it, but the more you apply it, the more you go, the more you turn up, the more you show, the stronger you become. So that's what we're needing to do, to realign to that guidance of our truth, power and potential, and make that one the driving force in our life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you're hearing, so if we could break that down just a little bit as far as how do you identify, right? We know the negative, we know the positive, but how do we help the positive be the driver versus the negative? Because that's what gets a lot of entrepreneurs stuck. A lot of people stuck in daily tasks in life where we procrastinate or take lack of action or self-sabotage. How do you switch that where the positive one becomes the driver?
Yeah. I don't think in terms of positive and negative. Here's where it creates the disconnect. That if we think something is negative, and this is what happens, people are like, oh my God, feeling fear is negative. Feeling less than is negative. So when it's negative, we want to suppress it. We want to get rid of it. Now, a little bit like a tantrum throwing child, the more you don't listen, the louder it's going to become. So the work that I do is all about the integration, the understanding of it, and that's what empowers us. So, for example, fear is a friend. When I'm getting ready to grow and move beyond my comfort zone, which means I'm going to create a change in an area of my life, in any given area, it could be health and well-being, and family and friendships, it can be in your business, financial, professional, but you reach that point where this is your comfort zone. So you've got an elastic band around you, you get that inspiration to create change, so you've got another elastic band around you. The closer you get to that, one elastic band's getting really tight. Okay, so that's when the false stories, the non-truths are going to come in. Okay, so if I can understand that, like, oh my God, now I'm feeling fearful. Now these other voices are coming in saying, well, I don't know enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not prepared enough, I don't know what I'm doing, I haven't got the time. If we can understand that that's all it is it's those non-truths that come from our false unconscious stories, then we have a choice to go, I can't suppress them. I'm not going to get rid of them because that's just going to give them more, make them more vocal, give them more power, give them more fuel. I'm metaphorically going to put them in the passenger seat of my vehicle called my life, and I'm going to drive anyway. So it's a little bit like listening. Have you ever been on a road trip with someone that's really annoying? Do you know what I mean? It's like learning to do that and to go, it's actually telling me I'm about to grow. Now, the voice that gave me that initial inspiration, that idea, that, go for this change, is that voice of our power and potential. I also like to think of it in terms of it's our future self already saying, you've already done this. in a different moment. I'm calling you to me because you've already made it. And then that's where, you know, the divine guidance comes in for me. Do you know what I mean? So it's learning to go, I'm putting that one aside. It's a non-truth. I can deal with my fears. So here's a little skill set if you're feeling afraid. You can write this down or you can say it to someone. But if you're saying it to someone, you need to set the landscape. You need to say, I'm just going to deal with my fears here, to dismantle them a little bit. I don't need you to say anything to me. I don't need you to come up with solutions. I just need you to hear me. And if you're writing it down, this is how you write it down. If you're speaking it, this is how you start the same way. These are my fears. They are not my truth. And then you name them or you write them down. I'm afraid that I'm not good enough. I'm afraid that I'm not going to earn enough. I'm afraid, you know, whatever it might be. I'm afraid I don't have enough time. I'm afraid that I'll fail. And then you finish it off by saying, those were my fears. They're no longer my truth. So what you're doing is you're listening to it. You're taking what something is perceived as negative, you know, because all those negative things are perceived as sort of back there hidden, and you're going eyeball to eyeball with it. And the minute you do that, and the minute you take ownership of it, but you don't claim it, if that makes sense, it starts to diminish it.